Hello, Sho, can you see
Hello.
me? Can you hear me? Good
Yes, I can hear
afternoon.
you. I can see you. Good
Wow.
afternoon. Yeah.
Well, here it's afternoon, but for you it's early morning, isn't it?
Yes, right. So it's good morning, good afternoon.
Okay, well, I'll give you a warm welcome. This is the first episode of GreenLight Podcast, and I'm so happy to have you here, Cho. If you allow me, I will do a quick introduction. I will talk a bit about your background. Today, thank you for joining my page. I hope this is the first of many episodes. I decided to start this podcast. I'm going to be very quick about this to help authors like me to get more exposure. And today we have Mr. Sho Okumoto, which he is a writer, a very prolific writer that has published over 20 titles on Amazon Kindle. He's a very versatile person that is also a martial artist. He's also a singer. He is a person that is multi-talented, and he's our guest today. And he's here to talk to us about all his trajectory as a writer, but also he's going to talk to us about his latest two titles that he recently published on Amazon Kindle, which are Me and the Journey, that's right, and
Yeah.
I Am Yakuza. He has extensively written about Yakuza, the Japanese mob. So let's welcome Cho, and let's get started with this session that I hope you enjoy. How are you today, Cho?
Doing good today. How are you today?
Well, I'm very happy to see you again. I'm your fan. Ever since I met you and I have been reading your books, I just can't understand how is it that you publish so much in so little time. So I think that the first question I have for you, if we don't have anyone on live yet, I mean, whoever is watching, friends, it's difficult because of the time difference between New Zealand and Mexico. El Paso, Texas, Chihuahua, it's very difficult for friends from both sides to be there. But if you have questions for Cho, make sure you click on comment on this live video and leave your question, and we will ask Cho about it. But in the meantime, the first question I have for you, dear Cho, is how do you start writing? How did you decide that you wanted to become a writer? Did you have like an epiphany? Did you have like an initial story that you wanted to share with the world? Please tell us, how does your writer career start?
Um, so the writing part, I think I've been writing since I was like a child, and I had the interest, and I often just write in my notebook, and my mother will tell me to publish. I should publish a book one day,
How old were
and
you?
I think I was young. I think I was like maybe 10. I don't really remember, but my mother would she would see me writing, and then I don't know, she just told me, like, you should publish a book one day, in the future. But it's something I didn't really kind of click onto. And it was 2019 when I was trying to like start a business and trying different things in my life. And then I I had three failed startups, and
Wow.
then I was like, well, where do I go from here? I was like, like three failed startups, and I was like, well, I've got all these writing materials at the time, and I was like, well, maybe I should publish a book, because I heard about Amazon self-publishing and everything on that. So that's when I uh, took that writing journey in 2019, and published my first book in November, and started from there, 2019 and onwards. Yeah.
How many books have you published so far, considering that you started in 2019?
2019. Uh, by now, I've written 24 books.
24 books.
Yeah.
How do you do it? Every time I go back to the writing community on Twitter and I see you have like 2 new books, on the shelf in stock. What is your creative process? How do you manage to get an idea and turn it into a book in such a fast pace that you still deliver your readers something of quality? Because I've seen your books have great quality. I mean, how do you do it? Who helps you?
So it's really I think the fictional fictional books, they it's kind of based on my experiences, and then from there I fictionalize it to make it like entertaining. And I write books like it just pops in my head, and then it's like, I think for me it's like the story has to convince me. So I will not write it down. It's something like it's in my head, and I'll go to sleep. But if I can dream about it, if I keep thinking about it, I'm like, yes, this is the story I want to write, because you're kind of really, you kind of captured that imagination or the creativity. So that's where a lot of the stories I get hooked on or get addicted to, and I'll write. And for the inspirational stuff, it's just really my experiences, things that failed in my life, things I've achieved in my life, and hopefully that I can kind of bring inspirational, motivational kind of, I don't know, wisdom, I don't know, something to help others, to kind of succeed in their life.
So
So it's
nobody
kind of
helps
very,
you. You type
nobody
your
helps
books
me, no.
alone.
Yeah, they're all written just me, solely by me.
So how much time approximately takes you to write one book? For example, 1 month, 2 months?
So I've given myself like a schedule. So in one day I'll write 5,000 words. It's like I write 5,000 words per day, and that's how I build it. And I think it's a month kind of process for me to write, edit, and get it all, like do the book cover and get it published or upload it to Amazon. So
So
it's a
this is
month process.
Oh, okay. Well, as a graphic designer and illustrator, I was first a graphic artist before becoming a writer. And I think this is something that you and I have in common. We make our own covers. And then you have some of your books have this design that are more like comic, sort of photo comic stories. And
Yeah,
you do that yourself as well, or do you have a
yeah.
designer?
So the thing is with the comics, it's actually funny. So I wasn't really doing well selling my novels, and everyone in the writing community, they got all these the trailers for their books and everything, and I'm like, so I can't afford these people to make trailers, and I don't have that talent. So I was like, well, what's the next best thing? And it's comics. It's graphic. You can get colors. You can have black and white. And so at the time, like I knew no one that can draw, and I do drawing on my own. Like I do a lot of airbrushing in the past, but it's the pace of my stories coming into my head, it's not going to keep up with my drawing. So I was like, so what's the next best thing? And photo comics. So there's been photo comics back in, I think, in the 60s. I think it's the Italian. I think it was the Italian. This someone as an Italian person that kind of started the photo comics, kind of got big, and so it's everything staged. So you stage everything and you take photos, and a lot of films do that too. Like I've seen Titanic. they had a photo comic as well. Star Wars, they got photo comics as well. So I was like, well, let's kind of experiment with it. Like, let's have fun with it. And since I knew no one that's an artist at the time, so that's where the photo comics began. And initially, the first two, the Yakuza Way and then the Chef in the Yakuza, is to promote my books. So it's like replacing the book trailers because I cannot afford the book trailers. So instead, create like comics, kind of fun, fast-paced comics. So they're like 100-page comics.
Okay.
And that's where it started. Yeah.
Who are your models for the photos? Because I can see that you turn photos into comic.
Yeah.
Is it you?
Yeah, just me.
Just you. So you're a one-man orchestra.
Yeah. So I do all this. Yeah. And that inspired me by who's the guy? Eddie Murphy and who's the other person? I think his biggest was Eddie Murphy because he does multiple characters in a film.
Yeah, he can act a movie on his own because he plays like 5 characters, something crazy like that in his movies. You're like him, pretty much.
So that's where the inspiration came from. Yeah. So it's possible to actually create characters by yourself. That's how I did it. Yeah.
Wow, you're a man full of imagination. I have a question from Roman. He says, I have a question for you, Cho. Do you have a favorite comic book superhero that has inspired one of your characters' overall design or stories?
I have to say Frank Miller. I like Frank Miller.
Oh, Frank Miller killed Anne Lewis. Well, he also gave us RoboCop 2. But okay. No, go ahead. I want to hear more about Frank Miller inspiring you.
So Frank Miller, he's the he created the Sin City. And I think I like the Sin City, that style, the I don't know, it's just something so different to your Marvels and the DC comics that came out. I read his I said the Dark Knight, his Batman comic that he did for DC, and I'm very blown away. I really like his the way he tells the stories. I like the graphics, the graphic art. So Frank Miller is definitely the one I really enjoy.
Well, yeah, Frank Miller could be your inspiration as a writer or a creative person, because Frank Miller does a lot of things. He's a pencil artist, he's a screenwriter, he's a writer. But in particular, to answer Roman, is there a fictional character, just like me, and the rest of the world knows that I'm obsessed with RoboCop, but do you have like a hero? I remember that Deadpool was one of... Deadpool, is it? Or no, you answered that.
So the true hero, okay. So when I was a child, my biggest hero is Batman. And it always has been Batman. And then when Spawn came out, I was like, I was hooked on Spawn. It was in the 90s, I think it was like 93 when Spawn came out and the film came out. And I was hooked on Spawn. So like, I think those two characters that were like kind of my childhood love.
Here's a French friend of mine. He's from the RoboCop groups. He also has a RoboCop French group, and he has joined the live interview. And he says, super poster Fabrice Duchamp says, super poster of Maître Bruce Lee. God, my French is terrible. I said the same thing to you. Great poster. Can you tell us if you're a big fan of Bruce Lee or if Bruce Lee has inspired your stories?
Bruce Lee inspired my life because
Wow,
it's
that's
very it's very
strong
difficult.
statement.
Yeah, I mean it's very difficult. Like especially we came to New Zealand in the 90s, and so an Asian family or to live in a Western country was very difficult. And
That's
so
right.
with Bruce Lee, like he inspired me. Like it doesn't matter, you can always, if you pursue your passion or follow your dreams, that it can happen. And so for Bruce Lee, he kind of opened the doors for us. Like he did that movie, the Enter the Dragon, which was done like Universal Studios, I think, by Universal. And he kind of, like became massive, big, famous actor. And so he's my big inspiration, to be honest. Yeah.
He's your real life hero.
Yeah, real life hero. Kind of give
And
you the belief that anything's possible.
so, being you of Asian descent, what do you think is the task or the main work that writers like you, like Matt, have? Matt, a friend of us in common, who's Korean American, have to portray characters that are appealing to the Western culture and break paradigms, because before Bruce Lee, Chinese characters were just the comedy relief of films, and they weren't even casting real Asian actors, which was a disgrace. I mean, they would cast white actors that would make this cartoonish, very pathetic impersonation of an Asian person. And Bruce Lee changed that. But now you have
Yeah.
another stereotype. Now we think that if we see an Asian hero, he has to be a good martial artist or has to be a genius with computers. Now we have this new paradigm with heroes that are of Asian descent. So what do you think is your task or your work as a writer of Asian descent when portraying your characters, so you can hold and hook a wider audience?
So for me, like I try to make it kind of that Asian influence as possible. So like all the locations, it's like Japan and Taiwan. But like it's funny. So because I was a cook in 2018, or cook in the past, and you see a lot of like cuisines that coming out like fusions. They got the just Japanese American cuisines or stuff like that. And for me, I grew up in New Zealand, so I was like, well, okay, so let's have a Japanese style story, but kind of have a bit of the Western influence in it. So it's kind of going to capture a wide audience. And so like the language that it's kind of like sometimes like I know one of my books, it's kind of got the British slang, it's got New Zealand slang, but still you got that kind of the Yakuza feel. It's got the Yakuza storytelling. So I kind of like mixed it. I kind of infused the countries I've lived in, and it kind of built my stories like that. So hoping that everyone's going to enjoy it. It's kind of my mission.
So you're a super intelligent man that speaks 3 languages, right? Japanese, Chinese, English?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
So I would like to elaborate a little bit on the Yakuza topic, if you allow me to, because one of the things that I find very interesting about you is that you write about the Japanese mob. But you said initially in the interview that you take your real life experiences and you turn them into fictional stories. I assume that you change names, situations, probably years. I don't know. But I wrote a book about a strip club, and even though it's one of my frustrated dreams to have become a strip dancer, I have never owned a strip club. I have been in LA, but the rest of the story I had to make it up in my mind. But unlike me, you were in Japan. And I want to know if you really got to know a bit more about the Yakuza, so you can write so much about them. What can you tell us about them?
So when I was working like in construction, like I met a lot of people, and I got really close to them. And then from there, they kind of started talking about their other life, the other life they kind of living.
So they were Yakuza members for real. You got to meet people that were actually in the mob. Oh my God. That's so interesting. I assume that if an American producer knew this about you, they would probably like to talk to you about your stories.
That'd be cool.
So tell me more. So
and from there, like the lot of stories, I listened to them, and that's where all my ideas come from. And also one of my best friends, he's actually a cop. So he actually knows the dark side of what happens, the business side. And so I kind of I don't know, taking it all in, and then it's just like it's kind of fascinating to me. Like even my mother, she enjoys watching Yakuza movies. So even from a young age, I've watched Yakuza movies. And so
you got to meet them in real life. I mean,
yeah,
who else has that chance?
It's kind of weird, like because a lot of them they do labor work. I mean, some they may work in the office. I mean, but yeah, they are everywhere, and I was lucky enough to actually get to know them and then hear their stories, and from there I was able to kind of write my own stories, use my imagination, and kind of build my books.
Your real life experiences. I think we all writers are a mix of both. Well, I would like to know if was it dangerous for you to hang out or to be friends with people that were in the Yakuza mafia?
No, I mean, it's, to be honest, like this is funny. I got one advice from this guy. He's a nice guy, and he's like, they're nice people, but never piss them off. And I'm like, well, I'll never piss them off. But they are really nice people. Like they down to earth. They, just don't piss them off. That's all. And that's it. You're fine. I mean, when you drink
if you
with
keep
them,
a low profile, even if you're friends with them, no problem.
Yeah, no problem. Like, like you go out drink with them, they just normal people, And so and I think they found me like genuine, like a genuine person. I'm not like an asshole. So they kind of accepted me, So I kind of got.
You're very easygoing. So how does it change? I mean, you changed your life because I know that you were born in Taiwan. That's right.
Yeah, Taiwan.
And then your mother took you to New Zealand, and then you decide to follow or know more about your roots, and you moved to Japan, right?
Yeah.
When you were a young teenager, more or less?
So I went back when I was 21.
When you were 21, okay. And that's when you were working there
23.
in the 23.
Yeah.
Okay, and you were working there in Japan, and this is when you got to be close to the Yakuza members.
No, it was actually 2018 that happened.
So it's quite recent.
It was recent. 2011, I went to Japan, and I wasn't, because I wasn't in that kind of like that area. I think because I was teaching English, and I was cook, so I wasn't really kind of mingling with that type of people. But it's 2019 when I left the cooking or the kitchen that I started working in the construction job. That's where I started to meet the Yakuza.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you were traveling back and forth to New Zealand because I assume that your mom is permanently living there.
Yeah. So I was traveling. So I would travel to Taiwan and New Zealand mostly.
Okay. How interesting. So do
Yeah.
you have any problems when switching from one language to another? I think that for me, English and Spanish is more than enough. I tried learning French and, you know, I should learn quite a bit of French, but I thought, no, this is not really my life. I think two switches inside my head are fine. But how do you adapt so quickly from Japanese to English? And then you're back to New Zealand, and now people speak English to you again.
The English in like for me, like I feel like when I go to Japan, like the more I'm around Japanese people, my Japanese just keeps improving. So I never had like, I mean, in the beginning it's difficult because when I'm in New Zealand, my Japanese is broken. So like I'll
I assume
talk
so.
in Japanese and it's like English and Japanese, but in Japan I can't really do that. Everything has to be full Japanese. So like yeah, so I mean it's hard in the beginning, but I start to pick it up. And people in Japan, they're really all my friends they're really great people. So like I had no problem. Taiwan, if you give me like a month, they'll be talking in Mandarin. So it's just being in the environment kind of really gets me back into that language, I guess. You know.
So if we look at your CV, then we find that you know how to build houses. You're a cook. You're a writer. You also paint cars, don't you? You do everything. You're like a person with multi talents.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've done a lot. It's crazy. That's how all the ideas come.
And a photographer, illustrator, because you make your own photo comic books. You
Yeah.
remind me Mexico in the 70s. Not sure if well, this is like a cultural um, bit of information for you, but in the 70s, photo novels were the thing here
Yeah.
in Mexico. Not sure if in the States too, but my father, who was an avid collector of magazines and in books, got to buy lots of them. So I remember that it was
Oh,
very cool. They were black and white, of course, but
yeah.
they were very cool because it was like a comic, but almost with live action because it had actors.
Yeah.
And they sold really well, but I'm not sure why. I think they weren't, I don't know, very famous after a while when, color came and printed, other kind of printing came by because my father was an offset printer. The
Okay.
ones, the very old ones that used to print books with typos, which were like small metallic lettering. So I think photo novels were lost in time, but they were super cool. I always thought, why didn't they keep producing them? So you are retaking something that was
Yeah.
famous, like 40, 50 years ago.
Yes, I mean, I did that research, and I don't know if it's Italian, sadistic, I think it's the title, the first photo comic book that came out, and it actually grew. I think it actually became popular, I think in France and Argentina as well, by
Which
memory.
one was it? Sorry.
Sadistic.
Sadistic. Okay. Was it French?
I think it was Italian, but it's like a guy in a skeleton costume.
I have to look for it. So it was a photo novel or was it a comic?
Yeah, it's a photo comic.
A photo
I
comic.
think it's
Okay.
actually the first photo comic that kind of came out.
Ah.
It's so like, yeah.
In what year, more or less, was this character famous?
So I think it was in the 60s, that kind
In the
of,
60s. Okay.
yeah. And it had
And was an
that boom.
inspiration.
Yeah, because I wanted to know more about the photo comics, like, and then has it been done before, like, because we always see the traditional comics as
That's
hand
right.
drawn, and so like, is this actually a thing? Was it a thing? And you go back in time, it's been done, and it was popular, like you said, in one time at one stage. So I was like, well, it's kind of cool. Like, let's revive it. It's kind of fun. I don't know, and it's just that one of those things. Like, the ideas in my head was just coming out. So like, the photo comics were kind of practical, because taking photos, I can take photos as quick as my writing happening. So that's how it happened. Yeah. So
You said something that resonates with my heart very much, which is your ideas work faster than what your hands can type or your hands can draw. This is,
yeah.
I have always had the same thought and the same feeling as a writer illustrator. I remember that for a while I wanted to draw comics, but I thought my hand is too slow and my ideas are too fast. So when I started my RoboCop fan fiction that you have read, I realized that I could be a writer and write a chapter and just toss an illustration, and that's it. Because
Yeah.
staying in making the whole thing, because I'm like you, I'm a one-woman orchestra, so I do everything myself. So can you imagine elaborating backgrounds and characters and everything? So you found your own technique to
Yeah.
publish on a faster pace, which was the
Yeah.
photo comic. And plus you are retaking something that was famous in past years and you're bringing it to modern times. I think your books are very valuable because of that. The first one of yours that I read, it was reminiscent for me of those very old photo novels that I read when I was a kid, and I was like, wow, Sho is retaking this. So I just would say that this is a very smart move.
Thank you. But I gotta say thank you to the reader that read The Chef in the Yakuza, because initially I was gonna stop there, but then she wrote a page, she reviewed it on her blog,
Who was it? Sorry,
and
who
the
reviewed
chef
it?
in the I'm
Oh,
not I cannot remember her name, but like, she gave me a review
a
on her blog.
blogger maybe,
She's a blogger, and she's author writer.
a writer. Oh, okay,
And
and she gave you a review, a full review of your book.
yeah, and I was just like, I was inspired. Like, she said, she gave me 4 stars, and she said there was no problem with it, that she wished there was more story to it. And
Ah,
so I was like, okay, so the first two, they're only 100 pages, because that was initially was just a promotional thing. Then with that review, I was like, well, you want more story? Okay, let's make it big. Let's actually go straight into it. Like, actually take seriously into the photo comics. So from there, the photo comics got bigger and bigger, and I think my biggest one's like 387 pages. That's the biggest one I ever written.
wow. Well, that's great. And I can see that you have a big fan base on Twitter. I can see that you're followed by many people, but also not only as a writer, but I think of you as a very personable individual. Plus, you're very good looking. Allow me to say that on live
Thank you.
camera. I assume you have like lots of female fans, and if you don't, you're gonna have them after this interview. But another thing that I want to touch upon before we end the interview is that your positiveness is what you imprint in everything you do. So besides being a construction worker, a cook, a writer, an illustrator, a photographer, you also write self-help books.
Yeah.
I wrote one of yours, the one
Yes.
with the motivational phrases. And sometimes I remember them. And I think, how does Sho do it when most of us writers at some point, we tend to be depressive, or we think, is this even worth it? Or I don't know. I mean, we kind of block ourselves mentally at times. And then I have you as a friend who always has like a positive phrase word for all of us. And not only that, you've been turning them into books. Can you tell us now about the other kind of books you write, the self-help ones?
So self-help. Okay. So really, those books are through my experiences, and I want to help people. Like, for me, like, the biggest thing is, like, when I see the writing community on Twitter, everyone is super smart. And so it's like, the thing is, I know that everyone gets depressed. I know that I've read the tweets, something like, and the thing
Not
is,
all of
like,
them are smart.
and then the biggest thing is like in a personal note, like, I dropped out of high school. I never finished high school. I failed English, and I'm not a smart person, and I'm a blue
You
collar.
are a smart person.
And then I'm a blue collar. I've worked in trade for my whole life, and so for me, like, and then you're gonna fail, you're gonna succeed, but then I think like the biggest thing was like to pursue your passion and to be positive, and to be positive is very difficult. And so like for me, I was like, well, I wanted to, if I can make someone happy, like if they read my quote, if I can brighten the day, I feel like, I know, like, it's kind of makes me happy as well, to be able to help someone that's not physically there, but probably reading my book somewhere around some other country. And so for all the my inspirational books is actually to help people, and for them not to stop creating, whether they're artists or filmmakers or authors, whatever, like artists, anything, to keep pursuing. Like, I mean, you're always going to have hard times in life, but to never stop, and to always go and pursue your dreams and to make it happen, because I
How
think
many
all of us,
books? Sorry, no, go ahead.
so a lot of us, we tend to kind of give up, and then we stop, and then we kind of fall back into the comfort zone and go and work at some job that we hate, building someone else's dream, but instead we should build our own dreams and create something with our life, because we only have one chance at life. So I think that's the biggest part of me, trying to bring positivity. Yeah.
So how many books, self-help books outside the Yakuza, the comic, have you written? I've read one of yours. Not sure if you have more. Me and the Journey?
Yeah, so including Me and the Journey, yeah.
What is Me and the Journey about? I'm gonna consume that one.
So Me and the Journey, it's kind of different. It's actually not on Kindle, it's only on paperback, but the thing is, it's got photos as well of Japan, like temples and shrines. It's got nature. So I kind of took a different approach to the style of the book. So like for me, like the biggest goal for me is like, how can I get someone back reading the book again? And we always go back to films that we love. We always go back and listen to the music we love.
Films, you and I are very similar.
Yeah, but what about books? Like, and yeah, I mean, how can I make someone go back and then read the book again? So I was like, well, let's make it nice. So that's when it included like photos. The formatting's kind of different, and the quotes, they're not big. They're nice and quick to read, easy to read. And then as you read, you're gonna have another section of photos, and you're gonna go through the photos, and then there's more quotes. It's kind of balanced with photos and quotes. And
how can
yeah.
we get it? Where do we buy it? Me and the Journey.
So, it's on Amazon.
Amazon, but only paperback.
It's only on paperback, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I Am Yakuza is available on book version, electronic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Both.
Do you sell your books outside Amazon?
Yeah, I have books outside Amazon. I don't know how they got to the other stores. I don't know how they happened, but there's books on Waterstone as well. I think it's an English bookstore.
Waterstone, yeah. I lived in England. I got to see them in real life.
Yeah.
The Waterstone's bookshelves.
Yeah. I think some on Barnes and Noble as well.
Barnes and Noble. Okay.
Novels. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Just Google my name and it just pops out.
So you're not exclusive of Amazon, because we writers that publish there, if we choose the Kindle Unlimited feature, which means people can read our books per page, we may earn a bit more, or we may spawn the interest of the readers a bit more, because they don't have to buy the complete book. They just grab a book and they read the first pages. If they're interested, they keep on reading or not. The only condition, the politics of Amazon, is that if you activate that feature, you cannot sell your books elsewhere. So I assume that you don't have the Kindle Unlimited feature for your books. If someone wants to grab it and just start reading it on the platform.
It is on KU.
They are, but not all of them.
Yeah. All of them, yeah.
All of them, but still you can sell them elsewhere.
No, I don't put them on the other stores. I think Amazon did that for me.
Ah, okay, that's interesting. It's like Goodreads. One day I remember that someone told me one of your books is on Goodreads, and I was like, I never uploaded it there. So this is happening to you now, that Amazon is starting to take your books to other stores.
Yeah, so like I
think that's fantastic.
I'm not sure how long it takes, but like within time, like it's in bookstores, like a lot of these bookstores I've never heard of. Even in Denmark as well. I think there's in France as well. So like the easiest way to see if it's in that country of origin, I think just type my name in and see if the books actually come out into that bookstore, you know.
How does that make you feel? Like Googling your own name and then, author and then your titles being sold in different countries?
It's crazy because that's your kid, your when you're a kid, that's your dream, right? That you type your name in the search engine and you're like, am I famous, or is something gonna pop up? And so like it's kind of funny, like when I started writing and publishing my books, like that kind of started to build up, and I think it's really cool. Like it's something different, you know.
Let's go back to Facebook. Fabrice keeps sharing comments with us. He says Bruce Lee is so powerful that he crosses all countries and remains the master of all martial arts. Let me remind you that Fabrice is French. So right now he's watching your interview from France. So he's staying up late. And Roman has another question for you. He says, have you ever considered working as a writer in the video game industry? Because I think that a lot of your stories and characters have video game potential, especially the telltale genre.
Actually, I never knew about that, actually. The video game side. But it'd be interesting, something different.
Are you a
I'm
video
always,
gamer? Do you like playing video games?
yeah, like Game Boy. The first Mario, that 2D Pac-Man.
Oh no, I'm so sad with Super Mario. The first ones I cannot play them on an emulator because otherwise I wouldn't get my work done. Super Mario World for S Super Nintendo. I remember that once I got to play on the PC and I was like, I went back in time when I was younger and I was like, no, I just quit. But recent video games, like for example, you're a martial artist.
Yeah.
Besides everything, all the multiple hats you wear, and there are video games like Tekken that are much into the Asian
Oh yeah.
culture, and they
Yeah.
have like super cool characters. My brother learns or teaches me how to play with them, and then he kills me with all of them. Even in Mortal Kombat 2, he tells me, so how do you want to die? He makes me choose. So now, he's a video gamer of many years. So this is why he's interested in knowing, because your profile as a writer could match into the video game industry. That's an idea?
Yeah, it's an idea, definitely. I mean, I haven't played games for a long time. I love the arcade, like in
Arcade,
the
yeah.
90s, like I don't know, it's kind of, I think it's kind of different. That when I was a kid playing those, and you're pressing all the buttons and you're going with that little joystick on the arcades. That's when I was playing like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and all that.
Mortal Kombat. Oh yeah.
But Japan, I mean, wow, there is endless. Like you can be in this arcade place for the whole day and get lost. I mean, there's so many games in Japan, like it's crazy. I mean, and the size of these places is just incredible.
Arcade
Um,
places.
yeah, it is just massive. Like the games, I mean, it's a bit of nostalgia, what I mean? If you're like, kind of that, if you're that 80s or the 90s that you kind of play those games, it's like, yeah, it's really
So
cool.
that's still in modern times in Japan. You have like those
Yeah,
super big arcade places.
yeah.
Wow. Never
So
take my
like,
brother there. He will get lost there forever.
because if you, I mean, for all the people that love games or manga, like Japan is the best place. I mean, if you see, I think Japan is the biggest country with the most comics or mangas. I think Japan's number
Yeah.
one.
And
Like, I mean, there's rows and rows.
Mexicans
Yeah,
are obsessed with the Japanese culture. I remember telling you that there are many
yeah.
artists here that take inspiration from manga, anime.
Mm.
It's a big thing here. So as I said, never take my brother there or my other friends, because you wouldn't get them out of Japan anymore. They
Yeah.
will lock themselves in the arcade places. Actually, another friend that is watching, my friend Luis, who I sent a hello. This interview wouldn't have been possible without Roman and Luis. They are my technical help. And Luis got to be in Japan for a few months and was fascinated by the culture and the creativity. I believe it's a very creative country. So in some way you come from there. So you have these images. Do you have all these experiences that you live there, and now those are enriching all your projects and your books? That's pretty fantastic.
Thank you. I think
Um,
the Japanese manga, they gave me a lot of reference. It's a good reference, like, because I didn't want to, like, I kind of want to move away from the Marvel and DC comics and then see other comics out there. And Japan is just endless. So I'll read the Japanese comics. I'm like, or the manga, and I'm like, okay, it's like it gives you more ideas. Like you kind of become more flexible how to kind of make, I think, those comics, those scenes and everything. So yeah, the manga definitely helped me a lot as well. definitely making those graphic novels.
And are you a fan of Studio Ghibli films?
Yeah, I'm big fan. Like I really loved how the storytelling and
The
just in
storytelling, because you're a writer. This is what you're
yeah,
focusing on. That's right.
yeah. And it's just everything about it, the animation, like I don't know if I'm old school, but like it's just so like my era, like my time. Because now it's kind of different, you know, it's very different now, you know, the animations, it's out of this world, like, you know, it's something that you never see in the 90s. It's just like even the games now, it's like watching movies when someone's playing the games,
Right.
you're like, oh wow, it's the how they move, it's all like the colors are amazing, you know, the
They
graphics
are
something, and
movies.
it's like yeah. I mean, it's not like Pac-Man, you know, like you're eating the little the little 2Ds.
Oh, those were the
So,
video games of my times. Pac-Man, I remember. I was a teenager when I started using computers, and computers back then in the 80s. No, in the 90s. In the 80s I was a kid, but in the 90s I was already a teen. Those were like monochromatic. I remember that the first computer I got to work on at this computer school was orange with black monitor, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So we had then we went to another classroom that had color monitors, and that was like the coolest thing. Like you have colors on a computer, and we had this diskette that we used to kind of smuggle as if it was, you know, smuggling drugs, because it contained Pac-Man. So when the teacher was not around, we would just copy it, you know, the file, and then we were all playing Pac-Man, and that was like, you know, we felt like we were geniuses back then. So
mhm,
yeah, it has changed a lot, the industry,
yeah,
the video
definitely.
game industry. Before we go, because I know that you have a busy day ahead, and we are 18 hours apart. It was quite a challenge to book this interview with you, and I'm very, very happy that you agreed to come. And you were the opening of my podcast show.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you, what are your professional plans now that you are, let's say, an established author that already has a fan base, readers, and many titles to choose from? What would be your dream job, or what would be your next professional step as a writer? What would you like to do? Well, Roman said video game industry. I would ask you, would you like to work in the film industry, or would you keep writing your own books? Would you write scripts? I think this will be like the last question I would like you to answer to the ones that are watching and will watch after the session is over. What is Sho planning to do now, professionally wise?
So the my ultimate goal is for my novels to become manga. And I would love an artist. So artist, and I'll be the writer. That's kind of my dream. So to bring the novels kind of to life, to have the characters kind of like um, become alive, I guess, popping out of the pages. I think that's one of my goals, and the other is to go into the film industry and be a screenwriter. So
Okay.
like to have one of my books or graphic novels to become a film. So that's kind of my two kind of main goals at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Are you working right now in another industry? For example, I have worked as a, and I still work as a copywriter. Have you been working, or have you worked at other industry as a paid writer, even if it's not like a creative fictional writer, like content creator, copywriter? Have you worked?
The thing is like The writing career began in 2019. So like before
You're
that,
very new.
I'm new. No, I paint cars. I airbrush. I'm a cook. I've always done everything with my hands and landscaping, everything. So like for me to kind of dedicate myself as a writer, that's 2019. And so I haven't done really like other writing jobs. It's really kind of like telling my story and kind of share it to the world, and hopefully, like to entertain the world with my stories. That's kind of my biggest goal. So yeah, I mean, from here it's kind of interesting. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, tomorrow I could have a new idea and start writing. I don't know. So yeah, it's kind of fun. Yeah.
So would you consider writing, to get paid for writing, even if it's not something creative, like if it's a company that that hires you, to write about products, about articles, about health, for example, different niches that aren't yours. Would you work doing that kind of writing?
Me personally, I want to write as a creative writer. Like I wouldn't go into that kind of part because it's not really my passion. Like it's not my passion. Like this whole process was to kind of like follow my dream and kind of do what I want to do. So if I was to if I wanted to get paid for something, then I'll just go paint cars, do landscaping. I don't know. I don't. For the writing career, I really just want to write my own
To keep it
stories.
creative.
Yeah, being that creative side, and kind of carry on with that. Yeah.
So, are you planning to write scripts?
I've written a script already. And so there's two people like kind of I've spoken to, and one guy has a bit of a just never got back to me. I think that's a reality. And the other one, he got back to me, but like, I was kind of like, I think in the end I realized, this guy was just kind of playing around, and I was like, whatever. I don't care. So like at that point, like I could have kind of dropped all my my novels and my graphic novels and pursue screenwriting, but that means I have to reset again and start from the beginning. But since I've already built kind of like a base for my novels and graphic novels, I didn't want to stop kind of writing novels and graphic novels. So that's why I kind of put the screenwriting to the side, and I just kept writing books instead and see where I go from there. Yeah.
Okay, that's very good. So, well, I just as a piece of advice, getting into the film industry, you will need to be a very patient person, because
Yeah.
most of the people that would require your work, or people that you would send your work to, would be extremely busy or will have like tight schedules. And well, try to not take things personally if they don't call you right away, because it's a very difficult business environment, I must say. But well, I believe that you have everything to accomplish that and even more, because look at yourself where you are after just 4 years of deciding that you wanted to put all your experiences into books. So I will need to interview you in another 4 years and see where you are now. So
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
I sincerely wish you much luck, and thank you for coming today. Thank you
Thank you.
for everything that you shared with us today, and mostly thank you for being my friend and a close collaborator on the writing community. That community has a soul, and you are part of that soul. You are one of the most active members that keep it alive and positive. So I don't know if you have some final words for the people that are watching you. Say hello to your female fans.
Hello. I don't know. Final words. I don't know. Just um, have fun with life, man. Have fun and do what you want to do in life. That's the biggest thing. And you're always gonna get people that's gonna like you're gonna have haters and doubters in your life, and to kind of mute them, and then just go what your gut feeling tells you, and just go for it and go all out. Don't if you start something, finish it. And yeah, hopefully like you achieve your biggest goals. Your biggest dreams. I think. Yeah, that's
That's a
my last.
that's great advice for people that want to start a writing or a creative career, and they think that they are either old, or they're coming late, or they're afraid of what other people may think. I mean, here we have you, that you have had a very interesting life, and when that you decide to become a writer without caring what other people tell you, and then you're accomplishing it, you're nailing it. So
Thank you.
thank you so much, Cho. And
Thank you.
I think I will see you around the writing community.
We sure will.
Have a great Sunday over there.
And great Saturday for you.